I'm here today to talk to you about making creative interventions in daily life. So I'm part of an interactive performance art group called Spontaneous Art. It's Chris Sandin, Natalie Berry, and myself. So when I say interactive performance art, what that means is that we will build a costume and then design a skit based on that costume. But all of our skits need audience participation to come to life. And we rely on the imagination of crowds and audiences to help us explore where these skits can go. So I'm going to show you some of our creative interventions we've made for people's daily lives, some of our projects. And I'm going to explain how these projects work. But first, I want to tell you why we even do these things. And it comes down to the simple truth that life is a temporary event. And the quality of anyone's life is pretty much equal to the quality of all their slipping moments added up, right? So our mission is to give people amazing moments. We operate on these three tenets, and we try to weave these into all of our performances: permission, connectivity, and creative play. Now, we perform all over the place. We jump out of U-Haul trucks in costume, we run around public parks, we show up on beaches, we go up and down city streets, we dip in and out of restaurants. Anywhere that there's a crowd, we can perform. And in the last couple years, we've been fortunate enough that actually some museums have let us in the door. So I'm going to talk to you quick about this first project and how these principles apply to kind of set up a framework for this talk. So the Smithsonian American Art Museum had this exhibit called The Art of Video Games. And we contacted them and said, can we make live video games for your crowd? They said yes. We showed up in robot suits, right? With these props that we were moving in pattern, strategic, like choreographed ways. And people had to like time themselves and then jump, duck, dodge, roll to get through them, right? Each different level had different score of music, and they had live sounds, right? So if a robot threw a space grenade at you, which is actually just a foam ball, and you duck, as soon as it hits the wall, someone's waiting to hit the explosion button, so boom, and people would look up and then run like a cartoon, you know what I mean? So it was a great time. So how do these tenets apply to this particular performance? Well, permission, this is not something people are usually permitted to do, in museums. Run, jump, and play, right? And people run, jump, and play so hard, they were winded, they were sweating, and they got back in line, Connectivity, it wasn't just you, the player, and the robots. It was you, it was the robots, and it was this huge crowd, horseshoed around you, cheering and screaming when you made it through, giving you high fives afterwards, And creative play, it was interesting to see people get ready to play these games. They'd be waiting in line, getting closer to turn, and once they actually got to the starting line and looked up, they'd see these 4 robots just waiting on them. And people would take off their hoodies, some kicked off their shoes, and they'd get in these track stances like, I'm ready for this, So we try to really immerse people in this creative world that we play in. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the tenets that we try to incorporate into all of our performances. So permission, right? Permission. We model it. It's contagious. So this is one of our fun skits that I think really exemplifies permission. There's these lab primates, right? And the thing about it is you'd be walking down the street, turn the corner, and all of a sudden see this gorilla come out with like a number on its chest, a vivisection head, and a bunch of wire stuck in it, right? And a scientist would approach and say, hey, these are my voice-controlled primates. All you have to do is say, primate 2, give it a command, and it will do it. And people would think and say, primate 2, do the salsa. And all of a sudden, primate 2 freeze, and all of a sudden people realize they have control over this performance artist. Primate 2, go find a banana. So they'd realize they have this control, and there becomes this amazing banter between our imagination and their imagination, right? So how do we do it? Well, we rewrite social codes of behavior together with you all. And it works like this. If you see one adult coming at you in a, spandex suit all glittery with a big flower on their head, You might feel a little bit of apprehension, expected. But if you see 3 of them walk up, then it's not really an anomaly anymore. It's more of like a community. And they're bringing their own social codes and rules to the table, right? So we'd approach somebody, maybe we'd be at like a summer fest, and there'd be a band playing, and there'd be somebody kind of tapping their feet. You knew they want to dance, but they didn't give themselves permission to cut loose. So we'd kind of go next to them and kind of mimic that amount of energy, and they'd smile. And then we'd start to like really like get down. And all of a sudden, they'd be like, you know what? I can dance, and they'd cut loose, right? That's the turning point, because as soon as one person that's not in a costume starts performing with us, it's a visual cue to everyone else that's not in a costume that they can come play, right? Fast forward a couple minutes, there's 3 flowers holding hands with 18 other people spinning in these huge circle dances like, going nuts, And so they're great moments and they're fun, but also the first time we did this, the next day we got an email, right? And somebody said, "Thank you for coming out. I just want to let you know, my father died 3 days ago, and I'd been in a deep depression. Since, I have not smiled, I had not laughed. When you pulled me into this circle dance, I belly laughed so hard, thank you." Right? That's like the most amazing email we could have got. Okay, let go. We help people let go. One project we did was haircuts and mustaches. So we were sitting there, right? And I had a buzzer in my hand, and people would come up, and, I'd say, "Hey, I'll cut your hair. I'm not a hair cutter, but I'm a sculptor. I'll cut your hair." As soon as one person did it, there was a line. And it started to go on where people were like, "You're an artist? Well, do something creative. Do something funky to my hair." And by the end, people were like, "Do whatever you want. Show me when you're done." People don't walk into a barbershop and say that. So that was a really great, letting go. Because it's just hair. It's going to come back or it's not. You know what I mean? And then, so Natalie's there giving mustaches to ladies. Any lady want a mustache? Any lady want a mustache? All of a sudden, right, there's 40 women walking around with cowgirl mustaches, Salvador Dali's, villain goatees, just because we said it was okay, So this is our second pillar. Some of our stuff is more spectacle, and then some of it is more interpersonal, about like really deeply connecting with people. And honestly, most of it is like both. So with these right here, we were like insect psychics. Of course, not really psychics, right? But we walked up with these like costumes with too many arms up to people, and with these kind of like fake tarot cards, and said, "Hey, we're insect psychics. We're here to like help you think through your past, present, and future. Do you want to talk?" And people said yes. And then they gave us the most intimate details about like their marriage and what they're working on with themselves and changing relationships with friends, right? Laid it all out. That was an amazing intervention for us because, normally it takes months or even years for someone to open up and share this stuff, but it happened like instantaneously. We also connect strangers to strangers, right? There's often like an implicit code that like you can't actually go up to someone who seems really cool. Like there might be a lot of people who seem cool in this room, but you walk up to them and say, "You seem really interesting. We should get to know each other," right? I think that, that happens in a lot of social situations. So what we do is we walked into spaces like that and said, "Hey, do you think there's interesting people here?" And people would say, "Yeah." And we'd say, "Do you want to meet any of them?" And people would say, "Yeah." So then all of a sudden we'd get them together, get them into circles. They'd start talking. They'd start chatting, get them in lines facing each other. They'd start exchanging all this great information. And in the end, people walked away with tennis partners, biking partners. They exchanged recipes. They even went on dates. Right? So this is our final tenet, creative play. It's super important to us. We want people to pretend with us, right? In this top row right here, there's the inconspicuous, conspicuous spies, right? And they would like sneak right in front of the person they were trying to sneak up on. They'd hide behind things that were way too small, So it was this funny kind of Scooby-Doo-ish thing, But then we'd also do this thing where there was another spy called the Red Falcon, and he had an envelope in his pocket that was top secret, and people knew because it was a big manila envelope that said top secret, right? And we'd say, "You have to go pickpocket this guy. You have to get this intel." And as long as he didn't feel it like get jiggled, then they got away with it. So people would work in pairs. We'd give them sunglasses, and they'd take on these missions. So one would go over and just try to like distract him and start talking and chatting him up. And the other person would be like reaching around another stranger, delicately trying to slip that out. So we love that they came on missions with us. Creative play on the bottom, we have our dental patient, which is kind of it's based off the game Operation. It's this huge head. It's got a row of braces, a bunch of candy stuffed in it. We gave people metal tongs, right? And then people tried to get the candy out. If you got the candy out without touching the tongs to the braces, you could leave with the candy. If you hit the braces, there was this jarring noise, and the person inside pretended like they were getting shocked. There's a little bit of a social experiment probably with all these, but with this one we said it was a nervous dental patient, right? So this big head that you're trying to get the candy from is moving around, and as you're leaning in, it's leaning back, But if people started chatting them up, Terry, it's okay. I've got you. Terry, we're going to make this good. Then Terry would slow down, and they'd have a better chance to get that, So we disrupt routines with humor all the time. Up here in the upper left, it's this 7-foot, three-eyed alien, right? It was the final character to battle in our live video games. But after we did that, we took it on the town, we got it some nice clothes, we went in the party store, picked up 6 or 7 pizzas, brought it into a shoe spot, and they actually tried to fit it. People really enjoyed playing with us. Take it to a full-body wax salon. So people, we are spontaneous art. We try to give people permission to connect to each other through creative play. And I think that our biggest hope is that you retain some of this experience after the performance is done, right? That the permissions you felt with us, that you'll bring into your daily life and be able to turn down the real and imagined voices in your head so you can hear yours with more clarity, right? It's always a risk to go and try to socially connect to somebody. But we hope that after one of our performances, you'll go and reach out and try to shake hands, more fearlessly. And the creative play, it's good for its own sake and it's good fun. But if you take it outside of our performances and you're creatively playing with what your life could be, when you're creatively playing, your mind's moving fast. Ideas are coming out like crazy, right? So if you're creatively playing with what your life could be, all these ideas lead to possibilities, possibilities lead to opportunities, and all of a sudden you have the opportunity to shape your life into something that you never dreamed of, right? And the cool thing is if you're living with more permission, and if you're living with more fearlessness about connecting to others, and if you're creatively playing with your life, other people are going to see it. You're modeling it. They could pick it up, which means that you actually might be making the creative interventions in other people's daily lives. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us out.